So if you are watching this on YouTube, you missed the first bit in which I read over the first page of the syllabus. I trust you all to read that. All right, back to where did my chat bar go? Sure, this is okay. There we go. All right. So the course is divided into two halves. Basically, before spring break, we're going to be looking at more foundational issues stuff. What are concepts? What is a mind? Should we think there are minds? That sort of stuff. The first half of the course is therefore because it's a bit more. What's the best way of putting this? It's a bit more in the nitty gritty. We're going to be meeting twice a week. Except for the one week in which we have Monday off for President's Day. The second half of the course, we're only going to be meeting once a week, and then I'm going to post videos to a YouTube. I know Zoom gets exhausting by the end of the semester, so the plan is to make we will kind of front load the class in terms of the more complicated material, and also in terms of the number of times we meet. So the first half of the course, we'll be meeting twice a week. Second half of the course, we're meeting once a week, and then there are going to be some videos. So that is that, and I will be talking more about this going forward. It's going to be, one other thing about the Zoom, it's the same Zoom link for every single class. We don't have any of those Tuesdays that are actually Wednesdays or anything like that. So you don't have to worry on that front. Attendance. Basically, because of the complexities of remote learning and COVID and everything else, you cannot be penalized for failing to attend these synchronized classes. Because of that, I'm generally not going to be taking attendance. Also, because most of you, it has your name listed next to your screen. Because of that, I don't feel the need to call everyone out since I can learn your names just by reading them. So if you're ever worried about missing class or anything like that, you are more than welcome to email me ahead of time. You're more than welcome to let me know why you've missed class, but you will never be penalized if you just miss. So don't feel that you have to reach out to me. Now, if you've missed a whole bunch of classes because you get sick or someone in your family's sick or something comes up, do reach out just so I know that everything's okay, or so I can get you resources that you need. But because I'm not taking attendance and everything else, I'm going to be recording these lectures and then posting them to a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is up and running. It's attached to the Blackboard right now. There's nothing on it yet because we haven't had any classes, but there will be a page that you can go to, and then I'll also put each lecture video into the YouTube as well. So after class today, probably sometime this evening, the first lecture will be posted, and then from then on, any classes you miss, or if you want to rewatch something to remind yourself, it will be up on the YouTube. Now, because it's going to be getting recorded, if you don't want to speak because you don't want to have yourself on a YouTube channel or you don't want to be seen, you are welcome to not turn on your camera and mute the microphone and then ask me questions in the text chat bar. This class, I'm not running my usual setup because we're just doing the syllabus, but starting next class, I will have a multiple screen setup and a whiteboard to write on. So because of that, I will have the chat bar in very large font on a separate screen. So I am pretty good at not missing any chats. So if at any point you have any questions that you don't want to say out loud or don't want to ask on camera, the chat is a perfectly good way of doing that. Also, if you just want to meet with me after class, I usually stick around afterwards to chat for a couple minutes if people want to, or alternatively, you can shoot me an email and we can set up a private Zoom, or you can just ask me questions by email. All right, any questions thus far? We doing okay? Again, I'm sorry, this is not the most exciting thing in the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We're all good. All right. Awesome. Course requirements. There's going to be 3 parts to grading. There's no tests for this class. I don't want to deal with the chaos of doing Zoom lectures. Or I mean, Zoom tests. Zoom lectures I can do. Synchronized online tests. Inevitably, somebody's computer goes down and it ends up just being a complete disaster. So instead, it's just going to be 2 papers and participation. So the papers are going to be in response to prompts that I provide. Um, and then they're going to be, usually the papers are like around 5 pages each one. And I provide the prompts, and then I just ask you respond to one of these. If you don't like any of them, you can respond to something else. You just have to talk to me ahead of time, and I will be talking about papers a lot more as it becomes closer. I think paper writing is a really important thing to learn how to do, and I think it's something that a lot of teachers don't spend enough time actually saying what it is they want. They generally just say, here, write a paper, here's when it's due. I don't like that because I think that every professor wants something a little different, so I like to spend a little more time looking at what it actually is that I'm looking for on a paper. So we will have a class devoted to paper writing. I'm happy to have office hours about papers. I'm happy to read over paper drafts before they're due. So long as you get them to me a few days before the final due date, I will read them over. I will give you in-depth feedback for you to respond to. Um, so do not worry about the papers. I'm my goal is to make the paper writing process as painless as paper writing during the time of a pandemic can be. Um, the one thing which I will bring up again and again, whenever you send a document to me, just make sure your name is in the file. Uh, a pet peeve of mine is renaming documents. So if I get like 36 things called paper one and I have to go through and see whose it is and rename it, it just drives me nuts. And then I get grumpy. And once I get grumpy, I can't help but be grumpy when I'm grading. And it's not good when your professor's grumpy when they're grading your paper. Um, the paper should be turned in on the blackboard. There'll be a special thing called like papers where you can just turn it in. If you have trouble doing that, just let me know, and you can always just email me a copy of the paper as well. They're due the end of the day of the due date. I think the first one is due like right before spring break. Um, Also, official policy is every day a paper is late, it's going to be a third of a grade off. So if you turn in an A paper 2 days late, it would be minus 2/3 of a grade. So an A paper would become a B plus. If you were to turn it in 1 day late, an A paper would become an A minus. Now, it's a pandemic. The world is crazy. Therefore, I'm not going to be too harsh on this. If you need an extension or something comes up, just reach out to me. We'll work something out. Um, there are many people out there who really care about deadlines and things, even during a pandemic. It's not one of the things that's super high on my priority list. So therefore, I would much rather you all reach out to me and we'll figure out a time that you can get stuff done while staying sane. So again, if something comes up and you need an extension, just reach out to me. We'll work something out. Even if after it you miss a deadline, just explain to me the situation and we can work something out. All right. Now, participation. Um, I really want this class to be a little interactive. Now, what do I mean by that? It's very hard on Zoom. It feels so unnatural. So I just want something that it's not just going to be me lecturing. So sometimes that's going to be me asking questions and wanting you all to answer them out loud or in the text box. Just something so it's not just me having to listen to my own voice. So because of that, 25% of the grade is participation. Now, as I said, that's not going to require you to turn on your cameras or even to talk. So turning on your camera and speaking in the camera or into your microphone is a very quick and easy way to get participation. However, any of the following ways are also you could get just as good on participation. If you ask me questions during class using your microphone, if you just use the comment box, if you just type in, even things like spamming the little Zoom emojis, the things down at the bottom, so that when I say something that you think is confusing, just make a confused face. If you think I say something ridiculous, feel free to laugh at me. Anything like that, just to make it feel a little bit more like an active class environment. I feed off of people's energy. So therefore, the more you can make it like a regular class, yes, thank you, those of you who are using the emojis right now. So anytime, just something that makes me feel like I'm interacting with an audience, I will be more focused, I will be more engaged, you will be more engaged, and it'll be more interesting for everybody. Also, even just emailing me, yeah, there's the Zoom emojis, if you go into, it should be the bar on the bottom. Where is it? Reactions. Yeah. So along the bottom, there should be a thing called reactions. And if you go to more, yeah, I can't find mine because I'm incompetent at this, but they're there on the little bar at the bottom that says reactions. Yep, a lot of you are getting it. So feel free to use those at any time. Also, even emailing me questions outside of class time or setting up office hours, just anything that makes it feel like it's a two-way street and I'm just not just talking to a camera all week. One other thing, to pass the class, you have to turn in both papers. So it's better to turn in something that's an F than never turn it in. I know that can feel a little like intimidating, but it is possible to pass the class even if you turn in an F paper. It is not possible to pass the class if you don't turn in both papers. All right. Any questions? We doing all right? I'm so glad that we're learning about the little emojis because for some reason they just make me happy when I see people give me like a thumbs up or something. It's like, oh yeah, there are humans here. I'm not just talking to myself. So lastly, required texts. You don't have to purchase anything for this class. I hate making people spend money for a class, especially when, we're in a pandemic. So feel free to just download all the stuff off of the Blackboard. It's all posted there. Off the record, I don't quite know the legality of all the things I've provided, so preferably don't run around to the dean and say, hey, this professor provided us with copyrighted stuff, because I'd rather not get in trouble. But I think most of it were things I found via Google searches, so we should be okay. But anyway, it's all up there. They are posted in the order that we will be reading them. So I like to keep my documents folders organized. So in this case, there's a little number at the front. So if you want to know what you're reading third for the semester, it's on there. Now that semester does not, or those orders do not correspond to the week they're due. Sometimes we'll have multiple. There are a few times in which it's one long reading that will cover over a course of even 3 or 4 classes. It's just so you know generally what order we're going to be reading them in. They are up on the Blackboard, and they are also going to be emailed to you, which takes me to the next thing, which is not actually on the required, isn't on the syllabus, but it's up there on the Blackboard. There's a thing that's just called names and emails, please. If you are somebody who uses an email that is different from your email that's listed on Baruch, or you're somebody who has a name that you like to go by that is different from your listed name. So if like you want to be known as Queen or King of the World, like I'm happy to call you whatever you want to go by. I just need to know what it is. So there is like a discussion board page. Just say like, hi, my name is John. My email is john.smith@baruch.blah, blah, blah. Please call me Your Holiness, and I will call you Your Holiness, whatever you want to go by. I need to know what it is. Also, if you're somebody who like really cares, I'm not great at pronouncing names. So if you're somebody who wants to make sure that I pronounce your name correctly, also feel free to tell me how to pronounce it. That way, if I mess it up in class, you can then make fun of me as well. This is the schedule. The schedule is subject to change. So I never know quite how much we're going to get covered in a class. And I am somebody who is, I guess it is here on the syllabus of what I want. There is listed that I'm going to want your email on the class discussion board. So yay, I did do a thing. Lastly, I'm somebody who prefers to do a few things well instead of a lot of things half-assed. So that means that everything that is on the syllabus, we might not end up covering it all. It might also be the case that by about halfway through the semester, everyone's like, you know what? The things that you've assigned have sucked. We want to make our own decisions. I'd much rather study this. We can also change the syllabus that way. Basically, one thing I can promise is I will never add readings on. So what is currently on the syllabus is the maximum amount of things we'll cover this semester, but there's a chance we are not going to get to every single one of them, and that is okay by me. I want you all to find it interesting. Also, if it's something like I'm covering a subject for the 4th straight class, and you are all like, Professor, this is boring as hell. We're so done talking about this thing. Can we please just move on? Yes, the answer is yes. Just reach out to me. I'll make sure everyone's on board and then we can move on to the next topic. If there's something else that you think, like you've been talking to your classmates and you're like, we would rather cover this other thing, just let me know. I will find a reading that's appropriate for it and we can move it around. So this syllabus is subject to change. I'm flexible. These are things that I just honestly, personally, they're things I find interesting that I wanted to talk about and learn about more myself, some of them. And therefore, this is what is on the syllabus. Um, Make sure with the syllabus, the readings that are listed are the ones that are due for that class. So next week, Monday, February 8th, the Churchland reading is what we'll be covering that class. So if you want to do the reading before class, this is what you should read: the Churchland, Eliminative Materialism, Propositional Attitudes. Also, make sure to read this stuff over closely, because I am not going to be asking you to read every part of everything that's on the blackboard. So, for instance, the Churchland Eliminative Materialism article is like 20 pages long. I'm not going to be asking you to read the whole thing because we're not going to be covering all of it. So, I'm just going to be asking you to read certain sections of it. So, make sure to look at the syllabus to see what the reading is, and also to read the syllabus closely so you know which parts you should read and which parts you shouldn't read. Next class, which is Wednesday, there is no reading. It's going to be a basic, like, what the hell is the point of this class? Why are we taking it? Basically, I want to ease us into the semester, and there's not really a good reading that's just called "What the hell is the philosophy of psychology?" I should probably write it because I want that thing to exist, because it is a weird concept. And basically, what I want to talk about next class is just, what do you think of when you think of psychology? What makes psychology different from other classes? And why is it something that's really, really difficult to define? And why is it that every psychology class you take, they're going to give you a slightly different definition of a psychology? And so that's basically what I want to talk about next time. Is just like what to expect in this class in terms of the materials. Why is this a class? What sort of things can you expect to learn? And why do I, for one, think it's super interesting? Um, all right, so those are the first. The next thing to note is that a week or 2 weeks from today, we have no class because it's President's Day. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't think there's anything really of note on here other than if you look again as we go along, the pages that I want you to read are always listed, as are some notes on the reading. So, for instance, this Lawrence and Margolis reading is very, very long. That's why it's going to be split up into 3 weeks. We're not even gonna, within those 3 weeks, cover the whole thing. Lastly, I have listed on here when paper prompts are posted and when papers are due. So usually there's about 2 weeks, 3 weeks between when I post something and when the paper is going to be due. And again, I will be talking a lot more about papers when it comes time. But basic background stuff about papers while I remember it. I like to say this off the bat: I am not a stickler for spelling. I'm not a stickler for punctuation. I'm not a stickler for page length. So if you're somebody who, usually I recommend about 5 pages, but that's usually because that's about the length that the best papers end up being. If you turn in something that's 12 pages, that's fine, so long as the reason it's 12 pages is because you got really into it and had a lot of good stuff. Very often, people who turn in 12-page papers, it's because they haven't proofread it and they end up repeating themselves. Also, if you turn in a really concise, excellent 3-page paper, even though I suggest 5, I'll never take off for that either. But usually it takes 5 pages to write something that covers enough ground that everybody, or that your paper has enough material that it really answers the prompts. Also, I want you all, if the plagiarism police come down from the plagiarism sky and say, hey, did this person plagiarize? I want to make sure that I can say, hey, no, this person didn't plagiarize. So if you use outside sources, make sure that you cite them. How do you cite them? I literally don't care. It can just be a URL at the bottom of the page or at the end of the paper that just says, here's where I got my sources. I don't care if you use Chicago or MLA. I really don't care about that stuff. I just want to make sure that I know you didn't. Basically, if I think what you're talking about is really cool, I want to be able to read it myself. So therefore, I just want to make sure that I can find out where that is. So that's just a little background on papers. And again, we'll be talking about papers a lot more. There's even a whole class called writing papers, in which I will talk about what I'm looking for a little bit more, and then I will post that to the YouTube as well. Last few things about the syllabus schedule. As I said, on week 9, March 29th. Oh, I should also say March, whatever date that Wednesday is. We also don't have class for spring break. But basically, starting week 9, the course is going to shift, and we're going to go to one class a week with also a YouTube video. So starting then, we are only going to be meeting on Mondays, and then there will be a YouTube video that's posted. You'll be expected to watch those videos, but they're going to be more for your own interest. And also, there will be a second paper that will be on one of the things from the second half of the class. So the bonus video, even if you don't watch it ahead of time, if you're writing on that topic, it's something you can go back and watch. Another thing about the reading list. The world is crazy, and you're all very busy people who, if you're anything like me, are in this COVID winter hanging on to your sanity by the skin of your teeth. Because of this, I know there are going to be times that not everyone does the reading. If at any point you haven't had a chance to do the reading, and you don't therefore know what's going on in class, I would much rather you just be honest and say, hey, professor, I didn't get a chance to do the reading. Could you just remind me of what this thing is that you're talking about? Or I missed last class and haven't had a chance to catch up on the lectures. Could you just repeat that? I would much rather you do that so that we're all learning than that I'm just talking to a bunch of people who don't know what's going on because the world is crazy and they didn't have a chance to do the reading. I will never judge you. I'm somebody like, I know there are professors out there who did all their readings in college. I'm not one of those people. I understand that at times things come up and you can't always do everything. For that reason, again, just let me know. I will be understanding. I will not judge you. And I would much rather this is a collaborative thing in which we're both trying to make it so that everyone learns as much as possible this semester. So if at any point you have a question, comment, concern, even if you're too embarrassed to admit it in class, you just want to shoot me an email and be like, hey, professor, I missed this thing. Would you explain it to me? We can set up office hours, anything that works for you. But again, not everyone has time to do the readings. A lot of you are still working, and on top of that, taking care of family and sharing internet and sharing computers. I understand. Because of that, we're working together on this. Just let me know the situation and we can work something out. All right, so that is the schedule stuff. Any questions on the schedule? Any things you want to highlight? Are we doing all right? Let me sip some water so I don't lose my voice here. All right, in that case, I will push on to the last few things. The last few things I want to say, this is where if you could see my face, I would put on my very serious face and say, just don't plagiarize. Basically, there are no tests for this class, so you can't cheat on the tests. You can't really cheat on participation, so all it comes down to is the papers. Basically, a few things to say about it. I write weird paper prompts. I generally don't just go with your usual one line, what so-and-so says this, what do you think about it? Or what is one problem you see with this thing? Those sorts of paper prompts are things that you could theoretically find an example of online. I instead write usually page-long paper prompts that are very strange. One consequence of this is that anytime someone has plagiarized a paper for me, the paper has been garbage. So it is better to not plagiarize because one, it's very clear to me because it's not responsive to the prompt, or it's something that is very clearly similar to another classmate's. And because I'm rather loose with deadlines and things, I would much rather you the night before, even if it's 5 minutes before the paper's due, I would much rather you reach out and be like, hey, professor, something came up. I'm not able to get this in. Can I get an extension? I would much rather you ask that because I want you all to have the practice of writing a paper. Even if that means we have to work out something special so that you can write it at a time that works, I would much rather you have that than you plagiarize. Also, with plagiarism, if you do it, I'm almost guaranteed to notice. You're almost guaranteed to fail. And on top of that, I then have to report it to the plagiarism gods. And then the plagiarism gods up in the dean's office have to have a meeting with you, and I have to fill out a bunch of paperwork, and I get grumpy and I hate filling out the paperwork. And then we have to have an awkward Zoom meeting in which I say, you know why you're here, I know why you're here. It's a headache for everyone. I really hate doing it. It's so uncomfortable. And the quickest way to make me unhappy is make me thing. Okay, so an example of the kind of prompt is usually something like imagine. So here's one. Any Brooklyn college heads here? I taught at Brooklyn a little bit. But anyway, what sort of paper prompts? So, for example, I've taught a class in other departments on just like, or not in other departments, but in other classes on just things like what is ethics, like a general ethics class. And one of the paper prompts was imagine you're walking down the street with your best friend. I give them a name. Imagine this best friend and you are minding your own business. All of a sudden, the devil comes down and says, hey, either shoot your best friend in the head or I'm going to kill an entire small town. What do you do? Why? That's the sort of thing where they're questions that are going to be familiar to things that you're used to, but they're going to be written in a way that you have to cater it to the particular way I asked the question. And it's usually going to be involved. So it's going to be probably problem devil edition. These sorts of ones will be things like concepts differences, your crazy friend who lives in a gutter edition, or you have multiple personalities edition. So all these sorts of things are going to be the way that they're written. So in theory, you could find something similar, but by the time you plagiarized and stole it, you'll have a few different. By the time you stole it, it would be so much effort to have done it that it would have just been easier to write your own. Usually there's 3 to 4 to 5 paper prompts to choose from. And again, if you want to come up with one of your own, I'm also happy to work with that. All right. So yeah, plagiarism, yada, yada. Accessibility services. If you are somebody who needs somebody to take notes for you or anything like that, I do not have the expertise to know what you need or how to provide this. So you have to reach out to the accessibility office. Once you do, they will forward something to me, or they will give you a note to forward to me. And basically whatever they say you need, I will go with. So I do not in any way have the authority to say this, but if you talk to them, they say this is what you need, that's what you need. I will never question that. Lastly, if you for any reason have to miss a number of classes for religious holidays or anything like that, just let me know and you will never have points taken off or anything. Again, though, you're not being graded on attendance this semester in general, so that's less of a concern. But long story short, so basically, yeah, if you want to let me know why you're missing classes, feel free. But I will never question you on this. I will also, if you get sick, if you want to bring a doctor's note for your own, for your own state of mind, just so there's no questions asked, like here's a doctor's note, feel free to do that, but I will never ask you for this. Also, if you I'm never going to follow up on your excuses. If you tell me that somebody in your family is sick and you had to take care of them, I don't need proof of it. If you tell me your dog died and you were too sad, that's okay. Like, I'm not going to follow up. If you have a family, like a different family member, like you just start making stuff up, that's fine. I'm not going to check in. You're adults. If you want to do that, that's on you. But generally, I will trust you all. So if you say you missed for reason X, Y, or Z, I believe you. If you want to bring in a note or if you want to meet with me and explain it because that will make you feel better, I'm happy to meet with you. I'm happy to talk to you about it, but I don't feel the need to include that. All right. That covers everything that's on the syllabus. Does anyone have any last questions on the syllabus? Or anything about the class in general, anything about how this class will run, anything at all?
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is like the homework for today? Like for
The
the next
homework
week?
for basically, Because it's chaos and trying to get things in with Zoom classes and everything else, basically the only things that are going to be you're going to be graded on are the papers and the participation. So therefore, they're not going to be weekly homework assignments. I want everybody here who can arrive, or at the very least, in like emailing me, engaging with me. But in terms of weekly homeworks, there's nothing. The only thing that I ask is that for next class, you just go on the Blackboard, you go to the little link on the side that is called names and emails, please, and tell me your names and emails. But honestly, there's not much in terms of homework. This is going to be more of I want this class to kind of be more open-ended, free-flowing. If you have to miss, it's not going to be the end of the world because there was some homework you missed. But yeah, it's going to be basically, in terms of Baruch email, it's whatever email you are best at responding to. If you're somebody who checks your Baruch email a lot and that's where you want all your emails going, then send me your Baruch email. If you're somebody who prefers your Gmail or your Hotmail account, tell me that one. If you've got an old AOL account that you like to get all your school emails on, send me that one. It's basically whatever email is best to reach you at, that's the one you should give me. If there's a few different ones you want me to email, also say that. Also, I think on there, if you want to include a little bit about yourself, feel free to do that, but you don't have to. Oh, one last thing. So regarding the cameras, as I said, I cannot punish you and I will not punish you for not turning them on. One thing I will say, though, is that there is a strong correlation between having your camera on and how closely you pay attention and how much you get out of it. So, also another thing, just the way the human mind works, we like things, or at least we connect with things better when they are more familiar to us. So if I know what your face looks like, I cannot help but more easily remember you and more easily have a file folder in my head in which I'm able to connect the dots. So if I know what you look like and then you send me an email, I'll be able to be like, oh, this is the person who this blah 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 blah. So even if you don't turn the cameras on, I know a few of you have done this already. Putting a picture up or even just like an image of something in your Zoom will make it easier for me to remember you, and it will make it easier for me to just connect the dots of face and name. So feel like put up a picture, turn on your camera, talk sometimes, just something that will allow me to better connect your name and your face. Because on the internet, there's only so much interaction we can have. So basically anything that makes it easier for me to remember you is good, even if it's like a picture of your dog. I had one student last semester who didn't often turn out on her camera, but when she did, she would often have her pet parrot on her shoulder. That was very memorable. So just something that will allow me to remember you better. All right, any last questions, comments, concerns? All right, well, in that case, you are all free to go. I will stand here for a couple minutes if anyone has any questions that you want to ask me in a smaller setting. But other than that, I will see you all on Wednesday. Again, there's no reading for Wednesday. All you have to do is just go on the Blackboard and just include all the information. And next class, we'll talk about what the hell is this class? Why are we here? What is philosophy? What is psychology? And what does it mean to stick them together? All right, so with that, I'm going to stop the recording and I will talk to you all next class. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Professor.
Professor.